3:05, and we're going to start because we certainly value your time. My name is Steve Heacock, and I have the privilege of being the current chair of the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, and it is my job to welcome each and every one of you to this great occasion this afternoon. And I look around and I see a room of all-stars, and just delighted that you all took the time and care enough, frankly, about the region to spend this time with us and share your expertise and knowledge. We have state senators in the room, our friend Patty Burkholz, and I think Jerry Van Workum's here. We have mayors from most of the lakeshore towns and villages. We have county commissioners from all over, including the chair of the Ottawa County Board, and a number of other very distinguished individuals, frankly, every one of you. And I just so greatly appreciate your participation today. I do need at this time, too, to thank our event sponsor, who is DTE Energy. We're just delighted that they're willing to provide support for the organization and this event, as well as silver sponsor Comerica Bank. And they have representatives here, I'm sure, with business cards for you if you want them. Jonas Salk once said that the greatest reward for doing is the opportunity to do more. And you've all lived that. You're all here in one way or another because at some time in your life you volunteered for some committee or some opportunity and found out that indeed people go to the busiest person when they want to get something done. And that's why you're here today, because you're the busiest people and you're the doers and you're the people that can get things done. So thank you so much for being here. Obviously, and as we see every day in the newspaper and in our daily lives, the world that we live in here in the West Michigan region continues to change. It truly is the one constant that we experience. I happen to work in downtown Grand Rapids, and people from 25 years ago wouldn't recognize it because the institute within which I work, there are 35 people there from the People's Republic of China. There are people representing some 20 countries within our employment base. We deal daily with issues of collaboration, one with the University of Nanjing Medical School, one in Beijing, one in Singapore. One in East Lansing, one in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor. We do live that collaboration, and what is happening there and what is happening throughout West Michigan is phenomenal, because whether we like it or not, and I think most of us do, we are very much part of the global economy. And the question really for us is, do we want to succeed within that global economy, fail, or just sort of stay in the middle somewhere? We certainly want to succeed and know that each of you do. When you view our area from China or Germany or Texas, frankly, you see an area not with the little lines every 8 miles or the separate municipalities and counties. You see a broader region than that. You start looking at employment base and what's really here and how far are people away so they can drive to the plant I might put in the area. You see a knowledge base, what universities are here, who's training the students, what opportunities are there for people to gain technical skill. You know, you see a manufacturing base, what skills already exist in supply side management, and where can we go? You look at medical, you look at scientific, and they really don't care much whether it's in your village or mine. They just want to know that it's within the region and that the region can support the efforts that they want to bring to us. So indeed, that's our sweet spot. That's what we think about at the West Michigan Strategic Alliance and what we want to have occur. We want to create collaborations that really bring the region together in new ways, to create a common vision, common priorities, strategies, and action initiatives. It really was Jim Brooks and the other founders' initial thought, is we can't be so separate or we're not going to compete well within this global economy. When they created this entity, and it is our vision today. So the West Michigan Strategic Vision is, in fact, that West Michigan will be a best place to live, learn, work, and play in the Midwest. And our mission is to be a catalyst for regional collaboration to create that best place. And I'm very, very proud to say, and I frankly shouldn't be able to be up here bragging about this because Jim, as founding chair, chaired the board throughout 2006, but he was gracious enough to let me stand here. In 2006, the West Michigan Strategic Alliance successfully engaged in both in both really thinking about a good thing and the planning that it's sort of started with and is traditionally known for, but also doing some substantial things. We first of all broadened the perspective at the board level. We now have 25 board members from government, business, and educational institutions throughout the region. And at this time, if you could, I'd like each of the board members to stand so you all can see who they are and engage them, if you would. Would you please stand? I saw folks from the board. Well, I thought they might throw things, and they clapped for you. That's very good. With Greg Northrup, our president at the helm, the Alliance really has moved from planning to action. And it's illustrated by a couple initiatives that will be talked about a little today and that you know well. One, is, of course, is the green infrastructure, another on innovation and regional indicators. The green infrastructure initiative, the West Michigan Strategic Alliance is working to really promote the value of protecting, preserving, and managing our natural features and resources. When you think about it, West Michigan is nothing if it's not for its natural surroundings. We're not a port like a Cleveland or New York. We're not on a main highway like Detroit has the advantage of being. You really need to want to get here, and the reason people want to get here and want to live here are those natural resources that we all enjoy, at least in part. So we will announce the signing of a memorandum of understanding with MSU's Land Policy Institute that's designed to bring intellectual capacity and capability to our region and for us to serve as a model and lab for Michigan State to consider replicating elsewhere. Secondly, on the innovation factor, and this one was just astounding, honestly, as a board member. When Greg started, he said, I know about this thing called Wired. And of course, to me, Wired meant what I was Monday morning after my first 5 cups of coffee. But he meant something quite different. He was well aware of a program happening within the federal government and said we really ought to apply for this. And, you know, I looked around the board and said, can we do this? Can we apply for this? We not only could apply, we got the grants, and not only did we get the grant, we've really become a model for other programs around the country. And now Greg's challenge is to fight off all the ask he gets for consulting and ideas that others would like him to share. So with that, it brought to the region $15 million of federal money for workforce and economic development innovation. We're very, very pleased about that action and how it so greatly furthers really the intent and mission of our founding fathers of the organization initially. And then finally, the regional indicators, which obviously is a topic today. And regional leaders and data experts, you, in other words, from throughout the region, have worked together and continue to work together to establish vital signs, a really set of kind of baseline indicators so that we can measure the quality of life in West Michigan. And it's a little hard to determine whether you're making improvements or having an impact unless you have that baseline. So the baseline obviously is the original test and the original work that must be done. So there are some 15 regional indicators that will be delivered, and we will assess initial reactions and opinions with an electronic keypad system. Others will describe what's going on beyond that. Greg and his team and the board have done other things as well, raised some money that's much needed to keep the organization going, created some new funding sources, new partnerships, including a very important one with Grand Valley State University, which is really the one entity, when you think about it, that claims the Lakeshore, Holland, Muskegon, and Grand Rapids as its home, and so truly lives that regional mindset. So we do have that and several other strategic collaborations that we've gone into. So I'm just delighted to be able to welcome you and have you here and participate in this great event. And with that, I want to introduce my friend and the president of the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, Greg Northrup. Greg has lived his life in economic development and really views this as kind of his dream job. He's now in a position where he can help affect change within the region that is the first step in that economic development. How indeed do we improve quality of life so we are attractive for people we want to recruit, for people that we want to retain. Greg officially was installed as president of the organization just 1 year ago in April of 2006. So Greg, with that, I give you the podium. Thank you all.
Well, good afternoon. This is truly a wonderful day for me, and it's a wonderful day for the staff and all of the people that we work with in West Michigan to make this, as we say, the best place to live, learn, work, and play. I tell people when I do presentations, it's what I think about when I wake up in the morning, and to be honest, it is what I think about. And it's a great challenge that we have to, in fact, look at the region and think about ways to actually improve our quality of life and make this the place that we want it to be, not only for ourselves, but for future generations. We have a great team of people that we've put together as a result of the work that we've been doing, starting back in 2000, but in the last really 15 to 18 months, we've accelerated the pace of how do we build a team. And we've been moving from planning and action to thinking about how do we actually implementation actions that deal with the regional collaboration priorities that we set for ourselves as part of the Common Framework document. We're trying to take these actions forward in a way that will improve the long-term quality of life for our region. We're trying to do it in ways that we ensure a collaboration across the region. Most of you that know me will understand that when I ask you the question, so what does the regional participation look like? And who are the regional players that are participating on the project or process that you're working on? And if you can't answer that question honestly, I always have suggestions about one or two names that we should be adding to the process, because it's ultimately the work that all of us do together that will make a difference. If you're not familiar with the Common Framework, I urge you to go to our website. You can download a copy of the document. It's one of the best documents I've seen that actually thinks about and understands the importance of regional economies, how they compete not only in the Midwest but in the global context. And as Steve alluded to, global becomes more and more of a feature of our thinking and requires us to think and act differently than we have maybe in the past. Our objectives today are twofold in terms of some critical things we have to do. You'll notice that I was smart enough to have Steve Heacock, our chair, introduce our board, and we were very pleased that all of you would applaud them for the great work that they do on behalf of our region. We have, though, many people to thank today. Our organization's only as successful as the volunteers and the others that bring forth resources to the work that we do day in and day out. And so over the course of the program this afternoon, we have a number of people that we need to thank. We need to do this efficiently, but at the same time give them the recognition that they're due. What I'd like to do is a little quick training thing. You're going to have some fun at this because there are two different kinds of interactivity we're going to have with you as an audience. Is my good friend Bill Lowry, who is head of our test committee, as we say. He's serving as an example for you. What I'd like to do is we're going to announce the name of these various partners and funders. It could be a list of organizations. It could be a list of individuals. When we announce them, we're going to ask them to stand up. And in this case, I asked Bill to stand up, as he did. Once they've stood up, what we're going to ask you to do then is say, "Good job." And when you say that, then we'll ask Bill to quickly sit down. It's our way, I think, to try and give some recognition to people that do a lot of good work, and at the same time have a little bit of fun and speak loudly about the kinds of things that are important to us as a region, because it's the people that ultimately make the difference. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Bill Lowry. You guys are awesome. Now, I'll give you a little heads up here. We do this according to my program manager, about 9 times during the course of the next couple hours that we're together. The next opportunity for you to do this type of recognition is when Phil Rios is speaking about the WIRED program. So just so you have a sense of the timing here, when you see Phil, and Phil starts to talk about the partners in the WIRED program, at the end of that, we'll say, "Good job. Thank you very much for that piece." I'm serious about the fun part, because if you can't do the work that we're doing and have some fun, then we're also missing the point, because this is the best place to live, learn, work, and play, but we need to have fun doing that work day in and day out. Otherwise, we need to get another job. And that's when Steve says, "I'm happy to do this work." I truly am happy to have this opportunity to work on behalf of West Michigan. Some of the things that we've been working on is how do you develop collaborative models? In our business, the business called West Michigan Strategic Alliance, we use the word collaboration almost in every sentence. It's the point of reference because the strength comes from our ability to work with all of our collaborative partners. One of the things that I did when we first came on board was say, well, how do we actually do collaborations? What are the criteria that we should set for ourselves and our partners so that we clearly understand what it is we're trying to do? The partnerships that we've put in place are built on trust. The trust comes from memorandums of understanding that we sign with our partners so that we know exactly what it is we're doing on behalf of each other and what the expectations are. Because at the end of the project, we all want to be able to say, good job. But the good job application works for us because we understand at the front end what it is we're trying to do in terms of our overall objective. And since we're not organized as a corporation, where I'm acting as the president of a corporation where everybody understands what the mission and objective is, in our case we have volunteers working in a number of different sectors working on our behalf, and so we need better ways to align the kinds of work that we do on behalf of each other. And we need to figure out how to share resources. And the collaborative model that we put together says, what can the West Michigan Strategic Alliance do to bring resources to you and your organizations to help all of us be successful in making this the place we want it to be? We know that the state and our region are dealing with difficult economic transformations, and yet at the same time I'm very encouraged by everything that I see happening. And I'm encouraged about the way people come together to deal with tough challenges. When we talk about the regional indicators this afternoon, we're going to set some higher expectations for ourselves about the kinds of things that are important to us as a region. But I'm very confident in our ability to actually deal with these issues in a way that will have consequence that, in fact, is beneficial to all of us. The regional indicators was the other thing that I really looked to help set an agenda for us. The priorities for regional collaboration that I referred to earlier are all critical to us. The challenge we have is how do we set priorities? And as an organization, I, along with the board, said we need to do a better job of setting priorities in terms of how do we use resources and how do we put collaborations together that deal with the challenges that we face that help us move down the road in a way that's efficient and effective and helps us deal with the quality that we're trying to achieve. And we've been working through that process. When you see the indicators project this afternoon, I think you'll see that it's another tool that we put in place to help us continue to assess our region. It's a tool that we can use to help us get a sense from you as business leaders in this region what you see the priorities are, and community leaders and governmental leaders to help us shape our future sets of actions, and we'll talk about that. I want to also recognize our partnership with Grand Valley State University, which Steve alluded to. When we came on board, they helped me with space because we needed space, and I said I need to look like the region. And my good friend Mark Murray helped me with that because I have an office, we have an office at DeVos Place, we have an office at Annis Water Resource Institute, and if you want to see me this summer, I'll be at Annis Water Resource Institute. I have an office that overlooks the water. And we also have an office over in Holland, because if we're going to act like a regional organization, we need to have a regional capability. But more importantly, our relationship with GVSU gives us access to intellectual capital. And what we need to do is access the capital to help us make better decisions about the issues that we're dealing with and bring that intellectual capital to bear on the work that needs to be done to help us deal with these issues. And lastly, Grand Valley has brought to us a resource that helps us with our Regional Indicators project and at the same time gives us an ability to track data at a regional level. We are 7 counties, as we describe the West Michigan Strategic Alliance. Federally, we're called the Combined Statistical Area. My good friend George Erchek at the W. Upjohn Institute did a study for us. I said to George, I said, what's our economic region look like? Where are people driving to in terms of their daily commutes to work? Where are the transactions occurring across businesses? And guess what? 90+% of all of the economic activity occurs in the 7 counties that we call the West Michigan region. Kent, Ottawa, Muskegon, Albion, Newaygo, Barre, and Ionia. Did I get them all? Hopefully. So it's in our vested interest to think about what we're doing and think about it in ways that make good sense for our region when all said and done. The second part of the interaction that we're going to have with you today, are we tracking? I guess we are, is you all have electronic keypads in front of you. Over the course of this afternoon, we're going to ask you questions to better understand who you are, and at the same time give you a chance to give us feedback about the kinds of things we're doing. We can use the feedback then to help focus our work. And so it's an interactive process. So not only do you get to say good job to a lot of good people, but you get to help us with the input process that we need to be successful. And with that, I want to introduce Brenda Vandermeulen, who's going to lead us through this process. Brenda runs an organization called River Hill Consulting. They do strategic planning and organizational, specializing in systematic ways to capture information. She's worked with a number of organizations across the United States. I'm very intrigued by the way this process works. We've used it in a couple other meetings. It's a great way to give some instant feedback. And so with that, Brenda's going to come up and give us a little education. Thank you.
Welcome. How many of you have a garage door opener? Good. You know how to use keypads then. But just to test, we're going to give you an opportunity to answer a question for us using your keypad. You'll notice on little keypads there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to a 9. And when I put this question up, you'll have 3 choices. They're cleverly numbered 1, 2, and 3. And if you would just answer that question, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and then we'll go on and do some serious questions. Did you ever lie to your mother? Yes is 1. 2 is no, and 3 is, well, I wouldn't really call it a lie. And you've got 30 seconds. We're seeing our votes come in as we go. Wow, we've got over 287 people in already. 77% of you have lied to your mothers. 18% of you have lied to your mothers. And 5% of you are still lying to your mothers. So now that we have got the important thing out of the way, and we'll hope that that doesn't make the newspaper, we'll get some serious questions. We want to ask you a little bit about who you are so that as we report later on who came to this meeting, we can do that with some accuracy. This is private information. We're not tying it to your name, but we do want to get a general sense of the group. What type of organization do you work in? If you don't work or volunteer, maybe you're here as a student, feel free not to vote. After about 30 seconds, it's going to move on to another question. We have 293 votes in already. That's amazing. What is your role within the organization? Are you a leader or director, a staff member, a volunteer? You're here as a private citizen or some other role? Do you want me to move? It's really nice with the glasses, too. 292 may be our number. What is your age group? This question should apply to everyone. Yeah, this is the lying question again. What's your gender? Ask your neighbor if you're not sure. Now, we had 293 on the last one, so there's 2 of you that aren't telling. How do you describe your race and ethnicity? Now, we're going to be switching to a map in a minute. We're going to ask you where you live, work, play, and learn. And as we do that, if one of those questions for some reason wouldn't apply to you, like you don't learn anymore, you don't have to answer it. click on the number that represents where you live on that map. Now click on the number that corresponds to the area in which you either work or volunteer. And I would say if the answer is more than one of those, choose the one where you primarily work or volunteer. Then pick the one that's more important to you. The area in which you learn. Where do you go when you want to learn? And where do you go to play? Apparently, some of you don't play. A few more coming in. And finally, do you consider yourself to be a decision maker or policy influencer within your organization? Okay, here are our results. About a third of you are from business and another third are from nonprofit organizations, 19% government, 11% education, and then a few others. Most of you are leaders within your organizations, which I hope corresponds to the last question that we asked. And about 20% are staff members. You are mostly 40 to 69, but a lot of you are in the same age group that I am. Not saying which one that would be. Area 6 on the map. Can you tell me what that was? Everybody knows but me. Grand Rapids is where you live. It's where you work or volunteer. It is where you learn, but it's not necessarily where you play. Interesting. And 93% of you consider yourself to be decision makers or policy influencers, which is, I think, who they wanted to attract to this meeting, so that's great. And I'm going to turn it back over, I believe, to Greg at this point, or to Phil, to talk about Wired.
Well, that was interesting. Good afternoon. I'm Philip Rios, and I'm the project manager for the Wired West Michigan. And it's a pleasure to talk to you today for just a few minutes about Wired West Michigan. And as a part of the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, Wired West Michigan has both the collaborative and innovation idea deep within its DNA. And as a result, I can relate closely to the quotation that's above by Peter Drucker. These thoughts are very appropriate to the vision and day-to-day operation of Wired West Michigan, and at every level, because we are pursuing we're going to pursue turning innovation ideas into action. Wired West Michigan recognizes that the most important task before all of us is keeping our economy healthy and growing and as it faces our continuing challenges. The long-term quality of life in our region depends on our ability to find the most promising paths for economic success and to pursue those paths in a very collaborative manner, as Greg has mentioned. Wired West Michigan has at its core the ideas and the talent that drives growth and prosperity, and in the most basic sense, the hope for the future. So when I describe Wired, I tell people that we're developing the people and ideas, training to attract and retain innovative employers and skilled jobs. Once again, there's that concept, innovation. By finding ways to more effectively create a talent base that meets the needs of this new economy and the employees, we can more effectively compete as a region in this new knowledge-based economy and attract the knowledge-based sectors such as life science, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and many others. This can only be done through a truly collaborative nature, and one that can be capably and effectively applied across the region. And we can apply those strengths that we have here in this region. And we believe that Wired West Michigan is that structure. We are one of 13 regions that have nationally received what is called a Generation 1 grant from the Department of Labor, Education and Training Administration to address these challenges. And it's, as Greg has mentioned, a $50 million grant that will continue through early 2009. Well, the grant will indeed end. Our goal is that the work that we start here doesn't end. As a result of this process, we have enlisted the help of some of the region's best and most experienced individuals to be on our Policy Council. The Policy Council is the ultimate review board of all the projects that are involved in the Wired funding process. And the council needs to be comfortable with the work and the effort that goes in every step of the way that we go through. We are fortunate that we have a very strong group of individuals that represent the entire region in our Policy Council. And here comes one of those times that Greg told you was going to be coming up, from whom they're volunteered their generous time and support. I'd like to specifically recognize our co-chairs, Lynn Sherwood and Fred Keller, and thank them for their leadership. But I'd also like to ask all of the members of the Wired Policy Council to stand and be recognized today. Please stand up. Good job. All right. Well done, well done. Greg warned me that he'd question my leadership skills if I couldn't pull this off, so I really I appreciate your support. Wired West Michigan is also fortunate to be working with 15 of the region's leading education, economic development, and community organizations. Our list of partners seems to grow daily, and I think I'd like to thank them for their continued support. I would like anyone today who is from one of these organizations, if you're associated with one of these organizations in any way, would you please stand up this morning or this afternoon and be recognized? All right. So at least for part of my objectives, I have 100% completion of getting the good job portion done. Thank you. I hope you're having a little fun with that. The resources, talent, and energy that I've described are now actively being engaged at a working level on these 12 specific innovations that Wired West Michigan is supporting. These innovations range from improving skills and training to accelerating entrepreneurship to expanding regional innovation capacity, and much more. To give you an idea of how truly regional and collaborative Wired West Michigan is, I'd like to share that we have over 450 people who are involved in some way in the work at some level, and that's a commitment that we all can be proud of. Truly is a regional approach. In closing, I would say that we are very proud of where we are, where we've come in a short period of time. And again, I'd like to say thank you to all of our partners, friends, and participants. And we are also very proud to be part of the West Michigan Strategic Alliance and their vision. At this time, I'd like to now welcome Katie Call, who from our Green Infrastructure Initiative, and Katie will speak to you next. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Katie Call, the Green Infrastructure Project Manager, and I'm going to tell you about the Green Infrastructure Project in just a couple of minutes. The Green Infrastructure Network in West Michigan is important to all of us because our quality of life is directly linked to the health of our ecosystem. The Green Infrastructure, let me do that. Green infrastructure can be defined as an interconnected network of green space and environmental assets that conserves the functions of natural ecosystems and provides associated benefits to people. So what does that mean? That means if you're talking about the Green Infrastructure Network in West Michigan, whether you're talking about it on a city scale or a township scale or a county scale or region-wide, we're talking about the forests, the wetlands, city and county parks, the farmland, everything that makes up the natural environment in West Michigan. It's the land that we all use and that we all receive benefits from. It's why so many of you chose to live in West Michigan, even though we tend to forget about, take for granted some of the great things we have in West Michigan. Quality of life, as Steve was saying in the beginning, is what draws people to the area, what draws businesses to the area. So we need to plan for our gray infrastructure, our buildings, our roads, our utilities, and at the same time we need to preserve our green infrastructure. And it's what makes Michigan the special place that it is. First cut at identifying this network can be seen in our Natural Connections map that was put together by many partners throughout the region, and it's available to you on the table as you leave today. It's a first cut at looking at what our green infrastructure network on a region-wide scale looks like. This work that happens at the Green Infrastructure Project couldn't be possible without the generous contributions of our funders, truly regional investment in green infrastructure. So at this time, if members of any of these organizations are present, I would invite you to stand up. Good job. I'd also like to thank our partners that help us identify the important issues within the region in their local areas, that help us understand both the economic and the ecological importance of our green infrastructure network, and that help us identify the most important areas to protect. If members of any of these organizations are present, could you please stand? Good job. Thank you all. The Green Infrastructure Project was launched in March 2006 at the Korth Speaker Series hosted by Land Conservancy of West Michigan. I was then hired as project manager in August. Shortly following, about 2.5 months later, we held our Natural Connections Summit in partnership with the Grand Valley chapter of the American Institute of Architects, who I'll talk about in just a minute a little bit more. The Natural Connections Summit focuses on land use issues. We talked about them at a global scale and how that affects our economy, our natural resources, the way we do business, and talked about what we can do and what we are doing by so many of you in the room at a local level to help make the biggest difference. The Natural Connections Summit this year will be held at the Pinnacle Center in Hudsonville on October 18th from 8 to 3. We hope we see many of you there. I look for more information in your inboxes and on our website in coming weeks and months. I'd like to take a minute to recognize the Green Infrastructure Leadership Council, who donates so much of their time and energy and creative thinking These are the folks that guide the Green Infrastructure Project. Would members of the Green Infrastructure Leadership Council please stand? Good job. We're almost done with the standing up. Thank you for going along. Oh. The best way you can predict your future is to create it. A pretty fitting statement for what took place last Thursday through Sunday at the West Michigan Regional Urban Design Charrettes. And the short and sweet of the definition for charrette, if you're not familiar, it's all about multi-jurisdictional planning. This was the second shred of this type held in West Michigan, the first taking place in 2005, where Greg Northrup and Bob Daverman from Progressive AE had a vision for this. And over the past months, Bob has worked pretty tirelessly to organize and orchestrate this whole thing that just took place, like I said, last week, to get engineers, architects, planners, local officials, scientists, people in the same room to talk about how to solve these multi-jurisdictional planning issues. At this time, West Michigan Strategic Alliance and the Green Infrastructure Project would like to recognize Bob and Progressive AE and thank him for all his time. At the same time, we would like to recognize any partners who participated on the charrette teams to please stand now. Good. Oh. Oh, we missed a slide. To give you an idea about what comes out of these charrettes, just to give you an idea of the results, besides the collaboration, the cost sharing, the reduced time it might take by working collaboratively, the 2005 project, for instance, the Grand Walk team, Grand Rapids and Walker, have come up with a business prospectus that they have taken to funders and are in the process of securing over $500,000 for projects in the Grand Walk area that deal with water, waste, and energy. The Muskegon Heights team has already secured $6 million in state funding for 3 community projects in their region. And the Holland Charter Township, the City of Holland, that collaborative team liked so much what they did in 2005, they came back in 2007 and focused on just a small part of that original piece. Right now, the Holland team is working on developing the gateway into Holland on 8th Street and Chicago Drive, enhancing a couple neighborhoods there, and providing greater access to the Macatawa Greenway. The Division Avenue team, made up of Kentwood, Wyoming, and their friends and partners at the Rapid, are looking at expanding commerce and residential opportunities there through putting in one of the area's first bus rapid transit stops, several of them actually in that area. And the North Central Muskegon team has taken on quite a challenge as they're looking at how Michigan's Adventure plans to expand in the coming years. So they're looking at the service, industrial, residential, recreational changes, trying to anticipate the change that's going to occur over time. So great job to all those teams. And the 2005 teams, you've already said good job to them. I'm sorry for the mix-up. You can find out what's going on with the charrettes. You can learn more about these teams at aiagv.org. There's also a link to that site off the West Michigan Strategic Alliance webpage. And you'll hear more about the progress that they've made at our Natural Connection Summit in October from the teams themselves. So with that, I'd just like to say this was a very short time to squeeze in a lot of information, but thank you. And as you drive home tonight, I'd like you all to think about how do you want your city, your township, your region to look in coming years? And what are the best, smartest places we can plan for development? Because it's going to happen and that's fantastic. But what are the best places we need to protect within our green infrastructure network as well to help make West Michigan the place that it is? So I thank you for your time. I thank you again to our funders and collaborators. And at this time, I would like to welcome Jim Ross from The Right Place.
Good afternoon. This is a great quote. Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. It speaks to not being wasteful. Eliminating waste is a way of life for many of our West Michigan manufacturing enterprises, and I think we all pretty much know that. It's called LEAN. The Sustainable Manufacturing Initiative is intended to assist the manufacturing enterprise community in eliminating waste by advancing their sustainability and environmental practices. With funding from the Environmental Protection Agency and in partnership with the Right Place, the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, and the Department of Environmental Quality, or the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, we've established 5 activities. The first activity is to expand our currently running green supplier network to 26 companies by October of 2008. The second initiative entails putting together 2 user groups and a regional advisory council that will help link national resources and expertise to Western Michigan, as well as create a broad-based awareness of sustainable principles and practices. The third activity is to explore and promote an emerging sustainability-related technology, as an example, an alternative or recycled material. Number 4, leverage a collaborative manufacturing network that combines sustainability and urban development in the Grand Walk area. And finally, identify major manufacturing sustainability indicators and engage 3 companies as lead implementers. So that is being quick, being good, and I will now be gone. Thank you.
So you guys are doing pretty good so far. I like the good job. Nice work. I want to thank Phil and Katie and Jim for the brief explanations of some of the major programs we have been going on in 2006 and really going to ramp up into 2007. I can't see this from here. There we go. One of the things that we're working on as a next major step for us is, and as the slide suggests, we need to have a strategic plan that really guides our actions. We developed a great working framework in terms of the COM framework for our region. We're now focusing as an organization on what are the critical priorities for us as we go forward. And I think what we're trying to do is continue to take all the planning and analysis we've done and put it together in ways that create collaborative action to continue to build on the kinds of successes that we're talking about here today. So we started that process. One of the things we're going to do is develop a screening tool. I'm approached every day by people like you in the region that have great ideas about the kinds of things we should do, but on the other hand, we need to make sure that we focus our efforts. And so as we start to take in and look at more kinds of ideas and various kinds of programs, we're going to test ourselves and make sure that we're doing the best thing for the region with the resources we have, and we'll engage a lot of you in that process as we go forward. On a couple of the other areas that we're looking at, one of my passions is brownfields. We have 28 brownfield redevelopment authorities in our region. We have 4 counties that have also formed brownfield redevelopment authorities. A brownfield, if you're not familiar with the term, is in a piece of property that's environmentally contaminated. If, as Katie says, we need to protect our natural resources and features, we also need to make sure that we're putting back to work those properties that can be reused in a way that makes good sense for society. And so I've asked all of the governmental leaders to participate in the consideration of creating something called the West Michigan Brownfield Redevelopment Council. I've asked the other counties to consider forming brownfield redevelopment authorities so that in essence our region will have 100% coverage of properties that potentially could be considered for redevelopment. And why is that important? It's important so that when business says we're interested in doing this project, that the pieces are already in place that allow us then to encourage that thought process to go forward in a way that's consistent with the marketplace is saying, as we have a great idea, are you ready to do some business? And I believe with what we're trying to do here in the region, it's another way to create collaborations that give us great strength. Katie mentioned the 45 charrettes, or the 45 charrettes. We've done 6 charrettes in our region now, multi-jurisdictional planning charrettes. Some people have said I'm a little bit crazy. I have this ambition that we should do 45 more of these over the next 5 years. I may wear out my welcome at AIA Grand Valley, but we've got a great resource there in terms of the engineers and architects that are willing to help us work through this process. If we do that, we'll give each of us in this region an opportunity to think about the kinds of redevelopment options we have relative to the assets that we're looking at, and how do we do a better job of integrating our thinking across the region. So it's another way for us to walk our own talk as it relates to collaboration. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my favorite legislator, and I don't say that lightly. Senator Patty Burkholz, who I've known for many years. In fact, it started with a meeting that we had talking about a brownfield, I won't date it, okay? I'm sorry. But it was to talk about a brownfield. And as we all know, it's easy for all of us to be critical of those in Lansing, and lately it seems like we have good reason to be so. On the other hand, the good news for us is we have a senator that we're willing to work with because she uses reasonable and rational thought to deal with some of the tough issues that we're talking about. And I'm so happy that she could join us here today, in part to help us with some announcements we're going to do, and at the same time talk about a wonderful program. Senator Patty Burkholz.
Thank you very much, Greg, and it's delightful to be here this afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I want to thank you all for the great work you're doing, excuse me, because you are doing good work. And you know what? Not only do the people around us throughout the state appreciate it, but the young men and women who are going to be the adults of tomorrow appreciate it also. And for those of you who clapped about the need for legislators in Lansing to listen more, I'm here to tell you that this was a landmark day. This is off script, Greg, but I have to say it. I stood at a podium much like this noon with a man by the name of Mr. Gaffney. Many of you know him. He represents the AFL-CIO. I thought I would never see that day. And together, some of the more conservative members of the legislature, me being one of them, as well as some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as well as people from labor and business across the state, announced some legislation that we introduced to require all health care to go out for bid to make sure that we together make our health care system better in Michigan. Thank you. But that's not why I'm here today. After that mention and that applause, I had to say that because I know many of you, I've heard from many of you in this room, whether you're my constituents or not. We're very concerned about the state of Michigan and what's happening. And I think finally people are beginning to reach out across the aisle and across that big chasm and willing to work together. Anyway, I'm here today to tell you, thank you. I'm here today to share some information with you, and let me tell you, one of the joys of being the chair of the Senate Natural Resources and Environmental Affairs Committee is that I get to partner with a very special group of young men and women. They are from the 4-H Conservation Leadership League, around 40 young men and women who are chosen from throughout the entire state every year. They come together and they work on a project, and they decide what their project will be. And they spend months researching it, interviewing people. In fact, this year's group even did a survey. I was very enlightened by that and felt a positive response that they were willing to go to all that work. But the bottom line was they choose their topic each year, and I never know what they're going to choose. And then I invite them to come to my committee and do a presentation of their project, and then my colleagues and I get to talk with them, interview them, and sometimes ask them a lot of very tough questions, which we did again this year. This year they chose land use and cool cities, which was very surprising to me. And believe me, I didn't prompt them. Those of you who know me may think I prompted them. I had no input. I didn't know they were doing it until they came yesterday to submit their and by the way, we are going to put it up on our website, their report. But the bottom line was, I was so thankful for this. The bottom line was, and a lot of information, a lot of good information was presented, but two of their major recommendations were we needed to better educate our elected officials and our policymakers, and we needed to work across the aisle, like that one, and we needed to encourage regional cooperation. I knew Jim Brooks would like that. So there's hope for our future, and at the end I did congratulate them, and they had used a lot of work and research that this group has done, as well as the Land Use Leadership Council. But I let them know how grateful we were, because going forward, they're going to be the leaders of the future. And guess what, folks? At least for this 40-some group of leaders across the state, I can tell you our future is in good hands. But I'm here today to share with you something that I think is really exciting. Some of you know about the Citizen Planner program. I imagine some of you in this room have taken the Citizen Planner program. Well, we now have it online. Thankful to Michigan State University and some partners, it is now available online. So I am here today to announce the Burkhalls Challenge. We are partnering with the help of Greg, MSU, and several other people. Michigan State University with the Land Policy Institute and the West Michigan Strategic Alliance are coming together to use a combination of several state and regional resources to create a new model for prioritized targeted changes in land use, starting at the grassroots level in West Michigan. So we're developing a collaborative, keyword, collaborative template for land use and adoption by other regions in Michigan. And we're excited to announce the Burkhalls Challenge, which will challenge every elected official to take the program online, in their own homes, at their own kitchen tables, their own kitchen counters, wherever, but take the Land Use Planner program and become certified in that, and therefore be better decision makers in the future. And to help me with this, bringing the Ivory Tower and Main Street together are John Warbach and Steve Heacock. Welcome. Thank you. Okay. Who's first? John.
John's first? All right.
John's first. John.
Okay, thanks.
Really looks before Brad.
Uh-oh. And that would be Senator Burkhalls. Right. Thanks very much. Dr. Soji Adelaja, who's director of the Land Policy Institute at Michigan State University, sends his regrets. He can't be here. He's in Haiti at the request of their Prime Minister and Minister of Finance to help with their land use issues, which are considerable. But in my capacity as Associate Director for the Land Policy Institute in research and faculty development, I'm here to accept and to stand in for Dr. Adelaja. The Land Policy Institute conducts mission-oriented research, outreach, and education to try and make a difference in the future of Michigan. LPI, which is what we usually call our institute, believes that land use, green infrastructure, and regionalism are extremely important, and so that is our focus at the Land Policy Institute. You may not know, but LPI, often through the People and Land program, has invested in West Michigan extensively over the last few years. These include support for, and I've got a little list to read you here, the Sustaining Prosperity and Supportive Urban Forms in the Grand Valley Region project with the Grand Valley Metropolitan Council, the Green Infrastructure Next Steps with the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, United Growth of Kent County, Michigan Higher Education Land Policy Consortium with Grand Valley State University, research on the fiscal impacts of alternative single-family housing, MSU faculty analysis of sewer infrastructure costs for the city of Grand Rapids, Grand Walk Sustainable Community Plan with The Right Place, the Grand Rapids Parks and Recreation Department information on equitable access to its parks, the development of a sustainability strategy for the city of Muskegon and its urban area with the Andes Water Research Institute, land use public service announcements provided to residents of Kent County, and the Citizen Planner Program. Well, LPI believes that regions are clearly the point at which the rubber meets the road. West Michigan is an ideal place, an ideal region to partner with due to the existing infrastructure of the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, the business community, the environmental community, government, and the philanthropic community. What does LPI believe about regionalism and Grand Rapids and the West Michigan region to be part of this collaborative? Well, because success does not come from nice, neat micro-solutions that are not integrated and do not contribute to a sense of place for a region. Because each individual community's assets are not sufficient by themselves in order to become real players in the new economy. Because regionalism is essential to the economic success in the new economy, and because Michigan needs regional success stories. Partnering with an organization that is already successful helps LPI have a greater and a positive impact. The West Michigan Strategic Alliance is such an organization that is already successful, and this memorandum of understanding is a bold, visionary step driven by the desire for West Michigan to become an even greater success. We look forward to signing this memorandum of understanding and to our work together with the people of West Michigan.
It's a real pleasure to thank Michigan State and the Land Policy Institute for its participation with us. And of course, they're not new to our region as a land grant university. They are the state's university and have very much re-engaged that role. Kind of echoes back to John Hanna, and now President Simon seems to have the same attitude. And we're very, very grateful for their involvement and to have their capabilities in land management with the West Michigan Strategic Alliance. So thank you very much, John.
We're supposed to stand here together and shake hands. Shake hands.
One more?
Thank you. And that handshake symbolized the partnership that has now been formed. We didn't have a signing, we had a handshake. Now Jim Brooks.
Good afternoon, everyone. The West Michigan Strategic Alliance was conceived in 1998 by a group of leaders from the greater Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Grand Haven, and Holland communities, who understood and recognized that the most important problems and opportunities that we face were beyond the decision scope and resource capabilities of any individual community. In fact, they can only be addressed when our governments, our businesses, and our institutions collaborate voluntarily across the entire region. In order to develop consensus around what were these most important problems that deserve regional collaboration, we launched a highly inclusive regional strategic planning process in January of 2000 that involved literally hundreds of people, took 18 months of time and close to $1.5 million to complete. The exercise taught us a lot about ourselves and our region. We learned how truly interactive and interdependent our communities really are. And also that by creating a strong regional identity, our organizations can collaborate across three sectors and learn to compete in this global marketplace. As part of our planning process, we produced, as Greg showed earlier in the meeting, a common framework which identified 6 priorities for regional collaboration. These address the triple bottom line of sustainability, which includes economic prosperity, environmental integrity, and social justice. Only by balancing these three elements can we ensure our ability to provide equal or better opportunities for our children, as our forefathers provided to us. Much has happened since the publication of the Common Framework. More than ever, our governments, businesses, and institutions are working together across jurisdictional boundaries in new and more effective ways. The Strategic Alliance is fostering collaborations that enhance knowledge of our region and give decision makers better data for making decisions, improving our environment, and strengthening our economy. One of the primary reasons that West Michigan is succeeding at so many collaborative activities is that we are very purposeful in adopting inclusive organization models and best practices in objective data gathering, open and respectful dialogue, and shared decision-making that creates win-win solutions. These disciplines build trust among the community's many stakeholders. And of course, trust is the foundation of all cooperative endeavors. West Michigan is becoming a role model for our state and for our nation. And the respect that we are earning is helping us secure additional state and federal resources to support our important action initiatives like the WIRED program. West Michigan Strategic Alliance's mission, as Greg pointed out earlier, is to be a catalyst for regional collaboration, not to be the controlling force. In fact, we are encouraging many existing organizations who have a vested interest and a passion for many of the community initiatives to take these leadership roles and to work together in new ways. Our biggest challenge with our limited staff and resources is to achieve action in all 6 regional priorities simultaneously. This is important because each of these priorities is interactive with the others in creating the systemic changes that are required. The Alliance Board truly senses a sense of urgency to foster comprehensive action on those priority initiatives that we haven't been able to launch so far. If we wish to play a meaningful role in the new economy, West Michigan needs a community culture that genuinely welcomes and celebrates diversity of all kinds to a much greater extent than currently exists today. If we have any doubts about this, we only need to ask our leaders of our corporations that do business internationally, the heads of our colleges and universities, or the leaders in our healthcare institutions, like our hospitals and the Van Andel Institute. We also need vibrant and highly stimulating urban centers because these are the environments in which the new economy organizations thrive. This is not easy stuff. Many of these 6 priorities are addressing challenges that we've never faced before. And change always involves a certain amount of risk, and with risk come a certain amount of mistakes. But we can never be afraid to take risk, and we can't be embarrassed about our occasional mistakes. We must learn from them and try again. The worst mistake is to put our heads in the sand and to do nothing. It would have been great for West Michigan if the Alliance had been founded 15 or 20 years ago. Perhaps we would have avoided much of the pain that we are now suffering in our transition of our economy. But thank goodness we started when we did and are not now just awakening to our need to act. The West Michigan Strategic Alliance is your organization. We have no formal power or authority of our own. It only comes through your active participation and the authority that you bring with the government, business, and institutional organizations that you represent. Today in West Michigan, trust is being earned. People are collaborating in new ways that we couldn't have imagined a decade ago. We do so because we now, all of us, understand that it's the only way that we can achieve our shared vision for West Michigan as the best place to live, learn, work, and play. We want this not only for ourselves, but for those who follow. So on behalf of the West Michigan Strategic Alliance Board and the citizens of West Michigan, I give you my deepest thanks for all that each of you contributes to the success of West Michigan. Thank you very much. Now, Greg Northrup.
Okay, we are going to be true to our word. If you read the program, there was supposed to be a break. What I'd ask is your indulgence. Give us, you know how we say, take 10 minutes, we end up 15 minutes later. I give you 5, I expect you back in 10, and then I'll say good job. The last thing you need to do is make sure you fill out this demographic card. There'll be a drawing. You have to be present to win, but we want to know who you are in terms of how to understand better to work with you. So take 10 minutes, and we'll be back at it. Thank you.